Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really high-stakes story. We're talking about a company that has this just massive ambition to grow 16 times bigger in only a few years. It's a huge claim, right?
Okay, before we get into the thick of it, just the usual heads up. This is all for educational purposes. I'm not giving you financial advice here, so please, you gotta do your own homework on this one.
All right, let's just jump right in with a number that frames this whole conversation. Ready? 5,000 crores. That's the revenue target RMC switchgears has put out there for 2030. For a company their current size, well, it's a jaw-dropper.
So you have to ask, right? How on earth does a company even plan to grow 16 times its current size? Like, what's the actual roadmap? Is it even possible? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll meet RMC switchgears. Then, we'll look at the bull case, the paths of that massive growth. After that, we gotta talk about the red flags and the risks. And finally, we'll wrap it up with a verdict.
All right, Section 1. Let's meet RMC switchgears, the company behind this huge ambition.
So what do? Think of them as the guys building the essential plumbing for our electrical grid. They make things like meter boxes and distribution panels. And listen, they're working with the big leagues, clients like Adani, ABB, and a bunch of state power companies.
And this whole thing isn't just some dream for the future. Look at their recent numbers. Revenue shot up 84% year over year, and their net profit literally doubled, 100%. So they've already got some serious momentum.
Okay, so that brings us to the bull case. How do they plan to get from here to that 16x growth target? What's really driving this thing?
Well, the story really kicks off with their order book. We're talking over 700 crores. And let's be clear, this isn't just a pipeline or some hopeful forecast. These are actual signed contracts they have in the bag right now.
To give you some perspective on that, 700 crores is more than twice what they made in revenue for the entire last year. So they already have 2 years' worth of work lined up, which gives them a pretty clear runway, financially speaking.
And this isn't just about one lucky break. They're attacking this from multiple angles. They're going all in on solar with a massive new plant. They're branching out into stuff like water treatment and IoT. Plus, they're riding the wave of big government programs like the RDSS. It's a full-court press.
And look, they're putting their money where their mouth is. Just look at how fast they're expanding physically. In only 7 months, their production space exploded from 5,000 square feet to 800,000. And their team went from 20 people to over 200. They're building the factory to match the ambition, and they're doing it fast.
Okay, that's the exciting part. The bull case sounds amazing, right? But with a story this big, there's always another side. And that brings us to the red flags. You gotta look at the risks.
I mean, when you see numbers and growth plans this explosive, you just have to step back and ask, is this for real? Is it even possible to pull this off? Or is this whole story just too good to be true?
So when you dig in, a few key concerns pop up. First, there's management stability. You've got both the CFO and the company secretary leaving pretty recently. That's a question mark. Second, execution risk. Building a 1 gigawatt solar plant is a monster project. And third, and this is a big one, cash flow.
Let's drill down on that cash flow point for a second. Take a look at their account receivables. That's basically the money they're waiting on from customers. It's jumped from 24 cores to over 100 cores. That's a more than 4x increase.
So what does that actually mean in simple terms? It's like you're selling a ton of stuff, but your customers are taking longer and longer to pay you. Your sales numbers look great on paper, but you don't have the cash in the bank. And for a company that needs a ton of cash to build all these new projects, that can be a real problem.
All right, so where does that leave us? On one hand, you've got this incredible potential. On the other, some pretty serious risks. Let's try to bring it all together for a final verdict.
So you've got this real tug of war. The potential is huge. That 700 crore order book, they're perfectly placed in the renewables boom, and they've got a bold vision. The peril? Well, actually, pulling off these huge projects is a massive challenge. There are questions about the management team, and that cash flow situation is definitely a concern. Not to mention the volatility you get with SME stocks.
And this is really the core of it. RMC switchgears is what you'd call a classic high-risk, high-reward play. It's got all the ingredients for a potential multi-bagger. A stock that could go up many times over because of its growth story. But the flip side is that the risks are just as big.
When you boil it all down, it really comes down to one word: execution.
Can they actually do what they say they're going to do? If they can pull off these huge projects, the payoff could be, well, absolutely massive. We're talking 5x, maybe even 10x returns.
And so, that leaves us with the big question. Not for me, but for you. We've laid out the potential and the peril. So, for the chance at a 10 times return, how much risk are you willing to take? Where do you draw the line?